Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Each day while I'm doing this, I feel like an ustazah. Do try to work on the dakwah like Miss Nina. Well, actually not. So welcome again to SMG 453. So today we are on chapter 5 on planning. So basically on planning, we are going to discuss about the plan and then how to work the plan and then what are the things that included while planning in order to assure that our project will be run smoothly. So let's check it out. So at the end of this semester, at the end of this chapter, you should be able to clearly define the project objective. You should be able to develop a work breakdown structure, develop a network diagram. Network diagram is actually a diagram that we use in order to draft out the tasks that need to be completed in order for you to manage a project. Okay, and then utilize a project management methodology which called the system development. However, for this class, I will not focusing on project management methodology, which is the system development lifecycle, because basically this is more on the usage of software and information system. So you're not going to use it, so we're not going to focus on this. Okay, so yes, project objective. As you all know, before we wanted to start for a project, we must first have a objective. An objective is actually the essential part of the project management because it is where we started to do the planning. Okay, so the plan is actually a roadmap which will guide you all the way through in completing your project. Okay, so the first step before you plan or before you can plan is that you need to have a project objective or you need to define it. This is a crucial part because you need to identify why are you doing that project. For example, you are doing a rugby tournament, so you need to mention or you need to define the objective on why are you doing so. Is it for charity? Is it for healthy lifestyle? Or is it just for gaining a new rugby talent? So you need to be very detailed about your project objective. So the project objective should be clear, attainable, okay, you can achieve it, specific and measurable. So it's usually defined in terms of scope, schedule and cost. The project objective should be clear and concise at the beginning of the project because if you and your team are not clear with your objective, this will affect the performance of the project because the team doesn't know what to do, the team doesn't know what is the objective of your project, so that will be a problem and conflict might occur. Right, next, we're talking about the second step after planning. We need to do a work breakdown structure, which is determine on what are the activities that need to be performed. Okay, I'm so sorry for my English. It's very rusty nowadays. I have been struggling with myself on catching up because I need to do this all over again. So sorry, mind my English, right? So before we can do a work breakdown structure, we need to have a list of all activities that need to be developed. So importantly for a project manager to know what are the activities that need to develop in order for you to achieve your project objective. Okay. So creating a work breakdown structure is actually better for a larger and complex project. For example, that you're having a big event tournament coming on September and it involves the whole states in Malaysia. So the activities, the project becomes more complex. There you need a work breakdown structure because you need to assign each of the tasks to different people. Okay, for example, you have I assure you have experience with charisma or Masum. Some of you are in Masum, or maybe TOT, final camp. That is also complex, but not too complex. But you can see that even though a simple a project like that also need a work breakdown structure, which means that each and every one of the people in the group or the team are assigned to do a task. Okay, so it's a hierarchical uh, tree and items to be accomplished. Okay, criteria for deciding on how much detail or how much level to put in the WBS. Well, level at which a single individual organization can assign responsibility accomplishing, and there are two levels actually. First, at the single individuals, or maybe second is a level where you want to control the budget and monitor, and you want to collect the data. So it can be either a person is in charge for a task, or you are assigned a person to control the whole team. So have two level. Okay. Um, when you're giving the work breakdown structure, you give a responsibility matrix. So responsibility matrix display the tabular formats of individuals who are responsible for the work. X can be used as to indicate who is responsible. P is for the primary and S is the secondary. As you know, for every leader, they're going to have an assistant. So this assistant can be marked as S, and this leader can be marked as P. Defining activities. So for project using WBS, individual activities can be defined by the person or the team responsible for the work package. So an activity is a piece of work that consumes time because we need time to complete the task. Each of the tasks given, for example, you are doing final camp, the secretary is asked to do the proposal. She is also asked to do the invitation letter, and then the media team need to come with the design on the banner. So each of these tasks consume time. Okay, so it does not necessarily require the expenditure of effort by people sometimes. For example, we're not using any energy, we just writing out the paper and then just wait for the approval. So that is considered as an activity. Okay, and then as I mentioned, we are going to develop a network plan. After we have already list out all the activities that need to be accomplished, there are already people who we want to assign on. This is where we develop the network plan. Well, this network plan can be graphically portrayed in a network diagram. So there are several network diagrams that can be used. So two network planning techniques were developed in the 1950s is the PERT, which is a program evaluation and review technique, and also a critical path method. So for this subject, you are going to learn about the critical path method, CPM. Okay, we are going to draw a network diagram using the CPM in order to get the amount of time to accomplish a project. Well, this will be covered in chapter 7. However, chapter 7 will not be right after chapter 6, because after chapter 6, I'm going to start off with chapter 8, 9, 10, and 13, and chapter 7 will come last. Why? Because in chapter 7, we are going to do a calculation. This calculation is very important because by doing the calculation and by draw this network diagram, you are able to know who is the responsible person for each task, what is the amount of time for completion of a project, and you also might know which tasks had taken longer time, what are the critical paths, critical path, which is the longest activities. So it is very important. Okay. However, we're going to do it last because it requires us to do a practical calculation. Right. Then we have Gantt charts. Gantt charts or bar charts are popular due to the simplicity. It's actually where you can you can assign people and you can put the task and you can check on the progress. Gantt chart is very important or really useful whenever you are trying to catch up with your the progress between the actual plan and the baseline. So Gantt charts, if you haven't seen it before, you can just simply go to Google and you just type Gantt charts. So there will be plenty of example of Gantt charts there. Okay, so it combines the two functions of planning and scheduling because, as I mentioned earlier, in Gantt charts you can put who is responsible for each task, and you will know what are the time to complete a task. Okay. However, the problem with Gantt chart is that because they doesn't show the interrelations of activities, so you will only know which activities have been complete, but you cannot see the interrelation between one activities to another. So if one activity is delayed, it is not obvious, and this is why you need to draw the critical path method. Okay. Alright, and then we have network principles. So there are actually few formats that you can use. First is activity in the box. For us, while we're doing the critical path method, we're going to use the activity in the box, which is also known as activity on the node. This is where in the box they has number of tasks, the name of person who is responsible, and then they are going to show through by an arrow on how is the activities is interrelated to each other. While activity on arrow AOA is actually more on arrows and numbers, so you won't be seeing detail as much as activity in the box principles or formats. Okay, this is I have already explained before this. Okay, so dummy activities also can be put, but in the AOA format. Okay, because this is due to we want to make sure that um, that particular task is completed within the time. Okay. Consume zero time represented by a dash arrow. See, this needed for helping in unit identification of activities and show certain precedential relationships. Sometimes you know that the task A is need to be completed in order for you to do task B. So in the middle, maybe you're going to put B, but B is actually C. Okay, because you want to show the precedential relationship. So loops are not allowed because it portrays a path of activities that perpetually repeats itself. So there is no loops. Laddering. Laddering is used for a project that has a set of activity that repeated several times. So meaning that if that task need to be repeated several times, for example, like acquiring for approval, so we can use laddering. Yeah, it's up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay. So how to prepare a network diagram? You choose whether AIB or AOA, and then you start to draw the activities in logical precedential order, and then ask the following questions. Okay, which should start first, which should finish immediately, and then which activity should we start after this one is finished. So you need to determine this. Okay, should flow from left to right, kiri ke kanan. It wouldn't be kanan ke kiri, it will be left to right, kiri ke kanan. Okay, not drawn to a time scale. It can be very in how detailed the diagram should be. Okay. Okay, so I guess that is all for this chapter. I hope that everybody understand about planning. Planning is the essential part. And then when you have planning, you should do the work breakdown structure. You need to identify who is responsible for the task. And then you should also know the network plan and network diagram. Gantt chart can be used in order to um, determine the responsible person and the time to complete each task. However, because it doesn't show the presidential or the interrelated task, you need to come up with a network diagram. So in order to do so, you can draw it using AIB, activities in box, or AOA, activity on arrow. But I usually suggest to use AIB because it becomes more detailed and you can put the person in charge in that number of activity, and then you also can put the time for each activities to be completed. So I guess that is all for this chapter. Hope to see you in the next chapter. Thank you. Assalamualaikum. Bye bye.